If you're a single soldier in the United States Army, there's probably a lot of things that you don't like about that kind of situation. The barracks, how you're treated sometimes, and one of those is probably also the chow halls. You probably have some complaints about the chow halls, whether it's their hours that they're open or closed, or the food that they provide, or whatever the case is. That's probably one of your issues you don't like. Well, the Army's looking to change that. So is it good? Is it bad? We're going to talk about that. What's up, my friends? Welcome to a brand new video. In this one, we're talking about a new pilot program that the Army is testing in Fort Hood that allows soldiers to actually have more options than just simply the chow hall. Now, they've kind of already done this on Fort Carson. I remember seeing a thing, and I think even other installations too, where they had like these kind of meal prep kind of style type of things where soldiers could show up to these kiosk areas and grab like some to-go foods and everything. And I heard a lot of mixed things. I actually probably heard more stories of people saying that it failed than it was a great option, but nonetheless, it felt a lot like gas station food, right? And for some people's opinions, sometimes you had good options, but sometimes those good options ran through quickly and then those were all gone. And then you're kind of left with like a sandwich and a bag of chips and a drink, which sometimes feels like gas station food. So maybe not the greatest implementation or the greatest execution on that part, but this new program sounds like it could be something a little bit better. So I have here an article where they're talking about this pilot program in Fort Hood, where they're testing it to allow soldiers to use their meal card, which in today's Army, it's just your military ID. You take that military ID to the chow hall, they scan it, and then it is able to register in the system that this is an individual that's authorized to eat for free in the chow hall. So here we have this article, right? Army and Air Force Exchange Services plays key role in campus-style dining. But what does that mean? Well, what they did is they tested this with about 200 soldiers at Fort Hood, allowed them to be able to use their ID card at select locations on post to scan their ID card to be able to get meals. And it was kind of like select meals, so they could go to, Qdoba, they could go to Starbucks, they could go to different places within like the food court there at Fort Hood, and they could scan their ID card and they would get their meal for free, but it was like select meals. So here we have for 2 weeks in August, the Army and Air Force Exchange Services at Fort Hood, that's AFES, that's the PX, right, offered breakfast, lunch, and dinner to 200 selected service members as part of their meal entitlement during a test of a groundbreaking Army feeding initiative. So that sounds like a good idea, right? Allows soldiers to just simply go to Starbucks, go to one of the places in the food court, and just select from their select menu, I guess, that they have that are approved items that aren't over the budget, I guess, of what the Army wants to spend for some large meal or whatever kind of a thing. Some kind of generic combo meal, essentially, right? Scan their card, select one of those combo meals, and boom, they're able to get that meal without having to pay for it. On paper, sounds like a great idea, right? They tested it out to make sure that, these select locations were able to actually scan their ID card and able to get it and then give their impressions. And then the Army is going to evaluate if this is something they want to try at other locations, because they are looking to try it at other locations if it was successful, which it doesn't really mention if it was successful or not. I feel like it should be, but I don't know. And I think this is a good step in the right direction, right? I don't think it's going to solve all of the problems, but I think it's better than the current options, right? Current options, if you're a single soldier, you don't receive that BAH, or not BAH, but the BAS, which is the food allowance, right? Food allowance is given to like married soldiers and officers, higher enlisted, other individuals that are qualified to receive that BAS, right? Soldiers that are not qualified to receive that BAS, their option is to pay out of pocket for food if they want to, out of their base pay, right? But for some young soldiers, that's taking away a lot that they don't already make anyways. But I mean, again, they don't pay rent, but nonetheless, your only other option is to go to these chow halls. And then the problem that they're running into is that maybe it doesn't have the food that they want, or maybe just simply the hours of the chow halls, because they don't have all of the chow halls open just all of the time. They're only open during select hours and select days. So you may have a situation where it's the weekend, you don't have a car, let's say, you're a single soldier living in the barracks, the chow hall that's right across the street, down the street, whatever that you go to is closed on this coming Saturday. So now you have to get a ride or walk a couple of miles down the road to the next available chow hall that is open. So that becomes an issue. I feel like having this as an option is great because it allows soldiers to have more options, right? Yes, still have it available. If they want to go to the chow hall, it's very convenient to the barracks, right? They walk over to the chow hall. But if they're tired of that chow hall food, like I often got sick of, this is a great option to be able to go get some other food options, right? Go hang out with your friends, right, at the PX and the food court and everything, and still get a meal there, right? Maybe especially like on the weekends or other kind of time frames, I can see this as a great option. So even here, he was talking about how they were testing it with a common access card. That's their military ID card at like Burger King, Freshness, Qdoba, Fort Hood, TJ Mills Food Court, Subway, all that kind of stuff. So all the different locations they have there at Fort Hood. So here it's even talking about once they get the feedback and test results that they want to try it in other places, right? They want to try it at like Fort Bragg, Fort Carson, Fort Drum, and Fort Stewart to try it out, which I think is a great opportunity for those individuals at those locations to be able to have more options, and probably will be great to probably widespread Army-wide kind of make it an initiative to be able to have that option. Now, it is probably getting into a topic of some people thinking, well, why don't we just give everybody BAS? Why don't we just give all soldiers that food allowance and allow them to use that money to get food wherever they want to? And that is a good point, right? It is a good point. Probably you should just give everybody that food allowance, but you are definitely going to have some soldiers that are going to not spend that wisely, right? They already probably have some money management issues, and they're going to waste it on strippers, on alcohol, on PlayStation games, or in whatever type of thing. But of course, you still have to look at it as these are adults, and if they make bad choices, there's bad choice consequences as an adult for making that. But sometimes, I don't know, you kind of have to try to weigh those options, right? Do you allow these soldiers to just receive that food allowance, and if they make poor choices, screw them? Right? Let them starve or whatever? Or do you want to try to take care of them and try to mitigate that possibility, and hopefully set them up for, choices in the future? Because as an adult who doesn't join the military, that's on you, right? If you are blowing your whole paycheck on, fun and video games and whatever type of stuff and not allocating enough money for food, you're going to starve. You're going to go hungry. You're going to be struggling. And those are choices that you made. But then you have to look at it. Do you want to subject, soldiers to that kind of same type of thing? Or do you want to kind of guide them a little better so hopefully future, their future lives are a little bit more better managed because of those choices that they, didn't screw up on, or I don't know, right? Or do you let them make those mistakes they learn from? I'd love to hear from you down in the comment section down below. What do you think? Just give them BAS, and allow them to, hopefully manage it properly, or fail and regret it and suffer through those consequences. And I don't know, right? It's kind of a tricky kind of a thing, and I'm sure a lot of you have different opinions on that. Another thing this could get into is, at what point does this kind of screw over the cooks in the Army, right? And kind of start to phase out their job? Because if we get to a point where now you can use your ID card for a single soldier to go eat at a local restaurant on post, maybe you do something else. Maybe you do it where instead of, you use your ID card, you have like this preloaded, Visa card, almost like an EBT card or whatever for food stamps, right, type of thing, right? Where you can use that off post, and it only works at, select type of retailers. That way they can't use it for buying alcohol. They can only use it for going to get food or whatever, so they can have choices off post too. But then that definitely still gets back to that realm of why not just give everybody that BAS? They have that food allowance. And I've even talked to soldiers, like current soldiers, about this topic, about would you rather have it to where you just receive that food allowance, or do you like having the option of just going to the chow hall? Some soldiers I've talked to, they said they don't want to cook. They don't want to make their own food in the barracks. They don't want that responsibility. They're not interested in cooking. They would just rather just go get a pre-made meal. And then some soldiers do say that, yeah, they would rather have just receive that food allowance to be able to prep their own meals and make their own meals in the barracks and everything. So it definitely kind of weighs in. So maybe you look at a different option where you have it for single soldiers, where maybe it's a thing where, hey, if I swiped my ID card at the chow hall, I swiped my ID card at Burger King to get lunch, dinner, whatever the case was, then that's going to get subtracted from that food allowance in the next month or that current month, however you want to work the system. Maybe do it that way. So that way, if you don't want to go and prepare food or make food or go buy food, right, you still have the option as a single soldier to go to the chow hall, to go eat somewhere off post, right? And I have to, kind of deal with that, or on post rather, right? Or off post, however you're going to kind of do it, because you've received that food allowance, right? And then if there's days you don't feel like buying groceries, then you go to the chow hall and it's just going to be subtracted. So you're going to get less food allowance in the following paycheck. I think that's probably a better way to manage it. But then again, if there's a lot of people that are avoiding the chow hall, then what are the cooks going to do? Are we going to have to shorthand the cooks and reduce the staff of cooks in the Army? I still feel like there should be a way to be able to have within the barracks a small cafeteria, a small, cafe type of thing, where you have cooks that are working in there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you can easily, as a single soldier, just go down to the first floor of the barracks, over to the place and grab something to go, or hang out at one of the tables and get a little breakfast, lunch, or dinner type of thing right there at the barracks, that's always open every day, right? And rotate through the cooks. But the cooks for that unit, are just on some kind of rotation to allow them obviously some time off and a break and everything, right? And have some kind of rotating schedule. But the cooks in that unit are assigned to that specific cafe type of style in those barracks. So maybe what do you think about that in the comment section down below? How do you think this should be best solved for those single soldiers? Keeping the meal card, going to the chow hall, give them the food allowance, cafeteria, whatever. What are your thoughts? I want to hear about them. For any of you that are maybe not in the Army, maybe not aware of, how chow halls actually work, I did do a video a long time ago about that. So if you want to learn about it, just go watch this video right here. You can go check out all about chow halls right there. If you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I'm Christopher Chaos. I'll see you next time. See ya.